Thanks, Manito. I mean, I think probably it is actually quite fair to say that everybody knows Six Love. Like as I call him, he's effectively our anointed Dalai Lama, if I can put it that way. I mean, Comrade 60. He is our guest speaker today. But just to give a sense to those probably coming here for the first time as to what is this all about, and before I actually hand over to him. Um, a loose group of comrades currently operating as MK support and advocacy, which effectively, just to be open and be transparent about it, it's mainly comrades from your ex-National Council. I say ex-National Council because both MKMV and National Council are dead. So, they actually just came together and said we needed to have some form of political education classes. And we started this program on the 29th of September. The first session, Mrs. Rips was actually there. The first session was with Omri Tongo on his one member, one vote. And it was hosted by myself and Moss. And then, of course, we actually had a series of other ones after that, and organized under the banner of EXMK Strategic Dialogues. Now, the idea there is actually very simple. It's trying to revive the culture of, umkhabulo within our ranks. That's effectively that. But more than talking is to try and find solutions. Now, the idea, therefore, is out of everything that we actually come up with to discuss, is to try and funnel it towards some direction, and that direction effectively is the ANC as our home. And then now in November and first part of December, we are also talking. I mean, going more on MK related issues, and effectively this is a third topic in that sense. The first one was with Commissioner Mojaki, where he actually just took us through, on a critical issue on the political relationship between MK and ANC and vice versa, as to what that relationship would actually be. And then the follow up was more on broad policy proposals, which actually led last week, the type of policy frameworks of, in terms of what we would like to see in an XMK conference that we hope at some point it will take place, hopefully this year, but we're not in control of that. And this presentation effectively, it actually fits into that. The aim at the end is to be able to learn a little bit more, but most importantly, we seek to be able to influence the positions within the ANC and the state, of course, using whatever little muscle we have within MK, with the conference and all those type of things. That's effective. So when everything is said and done, these are compiled and then submitted as propositions, and hopefully our leaders will be able to actually listen to that. But effectively, now I should actually, without wasting more time, just hand over to Comrade 60, and then he can actually just take us through his ideas on national security. And of course, after that, we will have an opportunity to ask questions. And after questions, we will then have an opportunity to contribute and give share ideas. Is there anyone who's violently opposed to the idea of Comrade 60 taking a stand? Any violence somewhere? So we are all peaceful and ready for him. Okay, Yamazan, it looks like your people are looking for you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good afternoon, all comrades. When I was busy with this presentation, my thoughts were based on scholarly theory approach. until Comrade Castro called and gave guidance, because I was just going to give theory. Hence, it has this house that you see before you, which is national security strategy tenet. So I ended up adding the case of South Africa, because I thought at the time when I was approached, I thought that they just needed me to present only national security strategy tenets, but I had to link it to our situation. Thanks again, Comrade Malik, or Doc, as I usually call you.
No, welcome.
It will be, yes. I will really be lying to say that we took this initiative of this strategic dialogue just to talk English and be together on Wednesday. But the reality is that we know that we have a situation in the ANC today. But without wasting your time, I think everybody knows that ANC was saved by MK twice in its lifetime. The first being the Honey Memorandum in 1967 that led to Morocco. And the second one was the mutiny in Angola, Angola camps, MK camps, where there were serious grievances against certain things that were happening within the movement. And that led to the Gabon conference. So we are faced with a very challenging situation now. And it's painful to come back with an organization alive and kicking, and only to kill it when we are supposed to be doing what we wanted to do, or we are doing even today, of trying to make a better life for all. So as a result, I came up with this house that you see before you, that talks about this national security strategy. It's a house where the roof, it's the nation, the state, and obviously both the nation and state cannot survive without national security. So the tenets, as you see them, I'm not going to dwell much on them. It's just that I needed everybody to see where we need to begin as a country. Because without national strategy, that country cannot exist for long. You can see that the pillars that are holding the roof, it's those tenets that we really need to talk about, which is national interest. We all know we've got leadership, I'm sorry to say, that does not even understand what our national interests are. People will not tell them about the national interest, that it has got also two pillars on its own, which is the primary national interest and the secondary. Just in short, our primary national interests, or the vital interests, are those interests that can take a country to war with countries because of the investment that we make outside our borders. So I will just talk about the vital national interest that we have in this country. We have a Kaora in Mozambique, which is a hydroelectrical power station, which was built with our taxpayers' money. So if Mozambique can switch off the grid, we know what will happen. It means the greater part of Limpopo and Gauteng will be dark. And we also have what we call the African manuscripts in Timbuktu, in Mali. And I was surprised when the Tuareg invaded Mali from the north, to show that our leadership doesn't understand what our national interests are. We never even issued a statement because the main aim, the French told themselves that we think that we can punch above our heads when Umam Nkosazana Zuma became the chairperson of the AU Commission. We could them, remember that we could them because they always wanted their interest to be served. They wanted Jinping to remain there. Because we won the chairpersonship, they wanted to tell us, to send a message. Hence, the Tuareg invaded Mali. The main target was the manuscripts, but unfortunately, fortunately for us, they only managed to ban the scribes, and I think 2% of our African manuscripts, hence they are being digitized now. The third national interest that we have in this country is Katse Dam in Lesotho. We know how many billions towards trillions that we are spending there. That dam, if Lesotho can close the tap, it means that our people in the Free State and part of Gauteng, Northwest, will go without water. Hence, I said that vital national interests are those interests that a country can wage war against another country. But to go back to the African manuscripts, we know that the former President Thabo Mbeki commissioned intellectuals, people of the African diaspora, to collect African history all over the world, so that we know where we come from, because we cannot exist and survive without knowing where we come from. So we've got the second pillar, which is national power. National power is all what a country that wants to survive can leverage with when dealing with other countries, more especially the foreign policy posture of a country. It also has two determinants, which is the first one is a natural determinant. I think when they designed or they came with this concept, they were having the art of war in mind. Because the natural one is about the geography of a country, hence our acceptance in BRICS, that we own 2 oceans and the 1 sea. Because when you talk of geography, you talk about the sum total landmass that you have. So if we can wage war with another country, our war will start from the shores. It will start from the seas, because we even own the skies, because the nautical mind also, they determine the space that you have in the blue sky, which is we call cosmic bodies. And then you've got the people, because we are natural beings. And then you've got the mineral resources that we have on the natural determinants. And then on the social determinants, which is the second determinant, you talk of economy, you talk of military, because it's what the wars used to call Skembi, where they came up with counter-insurgency and total onslaught against the liberation movements at the time. So as I said, I'm not going to waste your time. You've got national will as the third pillar. The national will, we all know that every political party that wants to win election and run the country, whether you rule or you, as we are governing, as ANC not ruling, you first have to have your manifesto that you sell to the people. As you sell it to the people, once the nation chooses or the electorate chooses you as that political party X, it means you've signed a social contract with the people. So whatever you do, whether you take the army to the foreign missions, there has to be the will of the masses. There has to be objective as well in whatever thing that you do. when we talk of national will, because you are serving the interest of the people, which is the will of the masses who are paying tax, who are voting you into power. There has to be the media as well, which forms people's opinion and influence people's opinions sometimes. Because whatever that you do, the media is watching. They report of each and everything that we are doing. Hence, we are in this mess today because of state capture. The media was exposing everything that we were doing instead of doing what we were supposed to do as the objective. And then the military, we all know, if we were to discuss these things, I will take you to the Battle of Bangui, where 14 soldiers of ours died for individual interest instead of national interest. Then it tells you that there was no will of the masses or the nation. Our soldiers died in vain. Then we've got national identity. National identity, these are things that we really need when we pen these documents or policy documents that we want to pen. It tells you that there are those who will say, what is Coca-Cola to and what is Ferrari to Italy when we talk of national identity. And we end up even relegating our Department of Arts and Culture to the gutter when we are supposed to be pumping money there. Because when you talk national identity, when you need to talk of up to Izango, because of the indigenous medicinal plants that we have that are benefiting multinational pharmaceutical companies, which are making trillions. But we ignore what we are supposed to be doing. As our country is the economy as we know, that at this junk status that they talk about. Without mining, without any national resources natural resources that we have, we can make a lot of money out of the indigenous plants and the indigenous knowledge that we have. That forms part of national identity. We had a car called Ranger in the 40s, in the 70s, but today we survive on Mercedes-Benz and BMW from foreign lands, where we still have the manuscripts. That's part and parcel of national identity, including your culture, the manner in which the Asian tigers came about in resolving their national and regional crisis that they had in terms of economic development. They had to look at national and regional identities. When we talk of national values, the reality is there is nothing called national values. We only have one value that exists in life, which is survival. Hence, every nation state wants to survive. The only natural values that we have, they come from families, which is natural or family values. Because to sit on the table at 6 every evening, if it's compulsory, we are forming family values there, because everybody knows that I need to be at home. But national values are imposed by a governing or a ruling party on the masses. They are imposed because we want to have values that will be a mirror through which, when the world look at us, they will want to be us or to be like us. So those that we have in this country, they are enshrined in our constitution, which is one man, one vote. I hope Comrade Omri is there. He likes the issue of voting. One man, one vote. The adult, universal adult suffrage, the respect of what do you call it, the respect of human and people's rights, ubuntu butu batu, united, what do you call it, non-sexist, non-racial, united South Africa, a state that is based on constitutionalism. So I think when we understand those, then we can continue. Can you please go to the second slide, Edo? So as we talk of national security, it does not just come on its own. We know, actually, I forgot to put on that house, but we don't go back. On that house, there has to be a foundation, which is the people, because everything rests on the shoulders of the people. There is nothing that we can do without the people, because national security talks about human security. So before we can have national security, we've got what is security as a concept or as a word in English. So as we know that you need to have a definition of every concept. So security is a conditional environment, installation, or person that is free of danger. So the reality is there any environment or any situation that is free of danger? The reality is no. So in order for us to secure and come up with a condition that is conducive for safe security, stability and peace, there has to be things that happen. And the result, because the one that we are talking about is based on the will of the people. So national security is defined as that. Remember that in the past, it's what even today, when you go to intelligence, it's called state security, because it was repurposed for certain things, not for the people. But national security is people-centric instead of state-centric. Because in the past, during the formation of the state, Marx called it the body of armed men, because it had to form its machinery that will defend it, because it was a state-centric approach which needed to protect the state because of individual oligarchs who had the monopoly of power. So the state needed to protect itself, as I said, against all odds. Hence, in the Marxist classics, it's defined as state security. As security is the preserve of the state. It was the preserve of the state, because that's when capitalism was formed. And the state, we know, whether we have a system of democracy or dictatorship, but the state is there to subjugate people into submission. So the state is the contested terrain. Whether we have a democratic state or what, but it's a contested terrain between labor and the capital, between the have and the have-nots. So currently, as life evolved, people began to realize that we can't be held at ransom by the state. We had to do something. So as a result, there was a conference which was held in Copenhagen, which is now called the Copenhagen School of Thought, where there was the issue of discussing what national security is versus state security. So presently, as it is defined in the current security studies and politics, national security is defined as a nation that enjoys economic growth and development, a nation that is free from fear and want. It is the masses of people that are free from hazard. They are free from health hazard as well. Hence, we have seen what has just happened now on the issue of the pandemic. We treated it as an enemy. Hence, the army was unleashed, and our president became the commander-in-chief, because we needed to protect the nation from itself and against this disease or this pandemic. It is also defined as a nation that enjoys freedom, the rights and prosperity, or economic prosperity, a nation that lives in peace, tranquility, and stable environment. It also talks about a nation that enjoys food, water, environment, food, water, and environment security. And in the national security discourse or debate, it is now those who have learned that much, the scholars, they call it human security because it talks about every human endeavor. It talks about all the facets of human endeavor. Hence, it is called human security instead of national security. Thanks, Doc. Can you also enlarge?
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, technology.
Sesibukile Doc, asisaboni kahle.
Yeah, ngiyabona amehlo sekaphelile nami sengisebenza amadosi. Sekulate. We are definitely in the departure lounge. We spend more time in doctors' rooms than having fun.
Yeah, I think I can try. It's fine. Comrades, as we spoke about national security strategy, you cannot start with a strategy without policy. So, just in short, just give a definition of what national security policy means. It has always been defined as part of government policy that has got the objective of creating national and international political conditions that are favorable to the protection or extension of vital national values against potential adversaries. National policy, security policy has to have vision, and a vision is for a unified or integrated national security system. Hence, in this country, we had what we call security cluster or JCPS, because there has to be an integrated approach in everything that we do for what we can anticipate as threats to protect the nation, and also it shapes the world in any given country's interest. The vision is bound to be supported by national security objectives, as I said when I spoke about national will, which can be more than one in number. There are periods where there is transformation for global security, and our country's national challenges continue to evolve too, as others are evolving. To meet these challenges, we need new ways to coordinate and develop our capability so as to shape the national security environment. Significant advances have been made in recent years to build greater collaboration and interoperability across the national security communities. However, the increasing complexity of national security threats require even more consistent and connected approach to capability planning that complements existing individual or agency arrangement. So in our security posture as South Africa, we've got what we call Chapter 11 in our constitution. And the following the following principles govern our national security as a republic. The first one, it talks about national security must reflect the resolve of all South Africans as individuals and as a nation to live as equals. It's those values that I have given. To live in peace and harmony, to be free from fear and want. And for South Africa to realize, can you please stop?
No worries. No worries. Everybody here was born before computers. So, no problem at all.
Yeah, and for South Africa to realize the national security posture, territorial integrity, peace and stability, economic growth and development must be priority number one in government governance policies. For it to be realized as well, conditions for peace and stability must be legislation that establish integrated systems. So the systems that we are talking about, because we are talking about the police, the army, the state security agency, we talk about correctional services and justice department. For our understanding, colleagues, I did not define everything. I just need to give just highlight on what state security agency is about or doing, because sometimes people tend to confuse security and police crime intelligence. So that's why, as we go down, I would pass when we are on defense and police, because we know what are the mandates of police and defense. So our areas of focus, as everybody knows, although I'm one person, those are things that we really need to really go back to basics and sit down and talk if we can have what we call security in that. The word terrorist or terrorism as a concept, it's what I have argued with so many people, that much as we have, because it's legislated, for now you cannot go and fight government because of a concept. Although concept can lead one country to attack another country. Concept is one area that we really need to make sure that when we deal with concept, we need to be very conscious and mindful. The first area of focus that we focus on, as I've already said, terrorism. I believe that in this country we've got what we call right-wing extremism. Excuse me?
Sorry.
Hello?
Yes, yes.
Now there is someone that I need to mute here.
Okay, seconds.
We need discipline, please. Let's just mute until it's our opportunity to talk. Sorry, Commissar 6-0. You continue.
Okay, so
Yeah, sorry about that.
yeah, actually to start with, let me not start by the areas of focus. State security agency, I will say we are a risk manager of government. We are located at the center of government and governance, because we are an agency that from the inception of policy for monitoring and evaluation, we need to be there. We are the people who have to warn government, people who know things that others don't know. We have that foreknowledge because of the manner in which we operate, the tools of trades that we use. They give us that edge. As a result, we need to forewarn government. We need to advise government at its inception, policy inception. Hence, I said you start from policy inception up to evaluation and monitoring. Everything that happens on the ground when the policy is implemented, we are there so that whatever wrong, whatever challenges that are there, we are able to go and advise government that this policy is not going well. Hence, the interdepartmental intelligence, because we are there in every government to advise and for on. So our areas of focus is terrorism, as I said, that it's a concept that I don't agree with, because I was once called a terrorist. And someone's terrorist is another man's hero. As you know, that we've got anti-terrorism legislation. Another area of focus, we've got sabotage. We have problems with EXCOM as we speak. And the reality, some of the things they point to that. Subversion, we have seen the looting in KZN and Gauteng, instigated by some. Also is espionage, to make sure that we protect our country from our adversaries or nemesis. And just on that part, I've spoken about indigenous. When we spoke about national identity, I have spoken about indigenous knowledge and indigenous medicinal plants. Babaton is one of the richest in the world in terms of indigenous medicine plants. We've got scientists and scholars who come to Babaton around winter. They come under the guise of research. So as government, we are giving foreigners free of everything that we have that can make this country to survive. As I spoke about national values, that we don't have what we call national values, they are imposed. But as every nation state wants to survive, so it means we need to use each and everything that we have at our disposal to make sure that this nation state survives. And how does it survive? One of those is the very same issue of indigenous medicinal plants. Once told some people that, you know, sometimes our elderly people, they die heart attacks because of American Viagra. When we've got impacts of the Bavedas, those who survive HIV or actually those who survive attacks, they go on and die of HIV because some of the ARVs that we talk about, but we've got an old man in KZN, who developed, ours they are called concoctions, Upechan. And some of the people who use this Upechan, they go on and test negative after being diagnosed HIV. So it's those things that really that are happening in our country. I see there's a hand of
Thanks. Malik, please, but we can't hear you properly, certain things. And precisely because there are comrades we are not muted. And then I don't know if there's anything wrong with the speaker, because now we are failing to catch up, and he's talking on strategic issues there. Can we check his mic, and then please everybody should mute.
Yeah, I think, sorry. I think he's...
Okay, that's good, sir.
Yeah, you actually got it. Okay, okay, cool. We continue then.
Can I start from terrorism, or should I continue?
Now you can continue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, as I was still on espionage, so we are sending our information free to foreigners, more especially Europeans, Germans, and Americans. As I said, that they come here under research, they take our traditional village in the mountain and exposed to indigenous knowledge that we have through traditional healers and steal our information. So government is allowing that. These are things that really we need. When we discuss at the Unity Conference, all those policies that will come up with they really need to influence the ANC Peace and Stability Committee so that we can at least influence our policies in as far as national security is concerned. The other part, which is our national interest or area of focus, is cyber security. We all know what cyber security is. Can we continue, Doc, just to save time?
Okay.
Yeah, as I said, I only defined the mandate of SSA. We all know what SANDF means, what is their mandate. We also know what the South African police means, or what is their mandate. We also, the Department of Home Affairs, we know their mandate, including Justice Correctional Services. So I'll come to the strategic intent, the role of ACPS in government. As we know that it's all these departments that have counted. So their role is the coordination of processes, because we've got crime, we've got terrorism, we've got all those that I've counted above. But in order to fight all the scourges of criminality, even the pandemic that we're talking about, there has to be integrated approach and coordination within the JCPS cluster. There's a delivery agreement that is there, of which the outcome, we have what we call outcome 11, that all people of South Africa need to feel safe. They are and feel safe. The things that make us to work together is we want to reduce the overall levels of serious crimes, particular contact crimes. The corruption within JCPS itself need matter to ensure its effectiveness to deter crime. The perception of the management of crime among citizens, it needs to improve. We also have the issue of borders that we need to make sure that we safeguard and secure effectively. So the integrity of our IDs, identity documents and passports, because in the past we never used to have problems with visas when we go to other countries. But people commit crime with our passports international. As a result, we are barred from entering into those countries without visas, when at least there was a level of trust from international community or other countries. Remember that when we go outside, we don't go just for visits. There's an issue of trade, where we make sure that the national interest that we spoke about, that our state, our people need to survive. Also, the issue of ICT systems, they need to be integrated and cybercrime combated. That's the mandate of the JCPS. Can we continue, Commissioner? So as we were outlining national security, now we come to the role of MK within national security. I was with retired General I think on Monday. He's been on holiday, but as part of reserve force, he had to go and visit the troops in the border areas.
We're losing you. Comrade 60, we're losing you. Can you hear me? We are losing you. Okay, it does look like he's having problems. So hopefully he will be able to come back to us as soon as he can. Yeah, that's what it is. It is what it is. What it is. I see a hand. There is a hand that is up. Maybe we can take that hand while waiting for 60. Is that yours, Tony? Is it an old hand or a new one? I see, Comrade Tony. Your
Or can you hear me now?
No.
Hello, Comrade Malik.
Yeah, we can hear you, not 60.
Okay. No, I think from the onset, Comrade 60 has been experiencing transmission issues because every now and then, you know, he will be breaking and you would have to link whatever he's saying to the presentation, you know. And I was going to suggest that maybe for future presentations that
that's fine.
because I'm also using the phone, we email the link to comrades so that maybe we can use
I'll ask Castro to continue.
desktops or laptops where it is functional. Then maybe the signal may be better.
Okay.
That's my 1 cent of suggestion in the meantime, whilst we are waiting to be reconnected with Comrade 60.
Yeah, I'm actually having him on the other side. He's having troubles with load shedding, but he's trying to find a back channel to rejoin us. That's effectively some of the national security issues. I guess so. That's why we're here. Is to discuss exactly this type of problems and find solutions to them. So, but he is finding his way back, and unfortunately, I think he is in Bumalanga, so there might be some issues there, but he will find his way in. If not, we will continue with his presentation. I think we'll just grab Commissar Castro. He's here. He will just continue with it because they are in the same club, fighting club. So yeah, we'll just take Commissar Castro to actually just complete that, because at least we have it, and he actually had that on time as well. So, but let me just find out what is he struggling with and see if we can fix that. Hey, Nyamasan. Yeah, you're not winning. Or is it? No, I understand. No. I did tell the comrades. So there are two things we can do. We can either, but it's going to be a problem to actually try and call in using a voice and you talk on the side. So it's going to be a problem. Or maybe you can sit on your computer, right? Download it on your computer. And because we're almost, I think we're almost on the slides you wanted to complete on in any way.
Comrade Castro, can you move? Can you on?
Yeah, okay.
Comrade Castro?
You there, eh? Okay, sure. Yeah. One second, then let me just sort something out.
But been struggling to. I wonder if you can hear me.
Yes. Just 1 second, comrades. I have.
You're audible now.
Yeah, no, just 1 second. Now I'm saying 60 has got a load shedding problem, but he is on the phone. He was actually on almost his last slide. So we've got a choice to make here to try and improvise. One, we either let him continue, and then he would dictate effectively from the phone, and hopefully we'll be able to hear him. or we actually then excuse him and ask Castro to actually take over. What is better? Can I get a view from the house? What do you prefer? Comrade Tony, what's your view, my chief?
Yes, I would suggest, my chief, that we just get him connected so that we don't lose the momentum. But if that fails, then Comrade Castro can take over.
Yeah, look, he's on load shedding, so connecting on Microsoft Teams is impossible for him because his wireless connection is gone. So that option is out of the table. But what is possible is that he is on a WhatsApp call. Now he can talk to us via a WhatsApp call, and then he's going to dictate, and then hopefully we'll be able to actually hear him. We've done it before. It has worked with most in a similar situation, but I have no idea if it will work now, as well. But the tragedy of the situation is to actually having to cut him when he's almost there. That's the sense of injustice that I actually feel about this. So that's why I need Solomon's wisdom. Matlamini, what's your idea? I see your hand is up. Can you lead us? Sally, I thought your hand was up.
Yeah, it was up, but I lowered it because I agree with Tony. I think because of time, if U60 is having these challenges, because he was working as a team with Comrade
That's fine.
Castro.
Okay. Castro, take over, my chief. We will deal with Comrade 60 on the side.
Is it still difficult to get hold of him?
No, he is not available because he has got no wireless, but he has got telephony. Now he can talk to us, on the phone, but then the question is, will we be able to hear him? And that's the challenge that we actually have. So that's why now I think, given the circumstances, we will actually have to plead with you to actually just take over. It's just one slide left because he was going to finish in slide 7. So he's actually on slide 6. So if we can just complete that so that at least we can get engage. It will be easier for him to engage when we're asking questions on the phone than to actually let him present, via me, so to speak.
Okay.
Chief, can you just try just now, please? Thanks, Nyamaza.
Okay, unfortunately, I was ambushed because I wasn't really
I know
prepared for this.
Yeah.
Okay, but just
we all know.
to try and finish on what Comrade 60 was dealing with is actually how MK can get involved in matters of national security.
Don't worry. So what
one of these
Castro is just going to finish,
was
but I'm going
in
to let you
terms
listen
of
to him.
establishment of border communities, which is key to national security. That is utilizing government funds for agriculture and agri-processing in border areas as food security zones and border security. This is a multi-pronged strategy because it will also engage different sectors like defense, the police, and other agencies in terms of border security, particularly the Home Affairs. And also the deployment of MK at strategic positions in the Border Management Authority, which is currently an agency under the Department of Home Affairs, and border areas as security managers. So currently, ports of entry, the security management of ports of entry is handled by immigration services, but the Border Management Authority has to take over as time goes on, so that then it becomes a sole responsibility of the BMA. So we can look at MK playing a role in that BMA structure. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, the commissioner and the deputy commissioner were appointed, but the other officials for the BMA have not yet been appointed. So we could look at lobbying the Department of Home Affairs in terms of appointing EXMK cadres as officials in the BMA. The utilization also of EXMK in disaster management as part of defense strategy on regional security. For example, within the reserve force, some comrades are also currently in the reserve force as former permanent force members in the defense force. But this should be emphasized, say, from the perspective of a ruling party, to say emphasis should be placed on employing EXMK members to be active members of the reserve force. And then in terms of civilian intelligence, EXMK cadres could play a very critical role as a force multiplier to civilian intelligence, especially within communities where they reside, to assist in terms of domestic collection, and also the inclusion of their offspring, their descendants, in cadre program of the State Security Agency, and also be part of the pool that can be trained for foreign intelligence services in Africa. We have also an advantage that some of the descendants of EXMK cadres were born, some of them were born in exile, so they can even speak some of these languages that are spoken in exile, like Portuguese, Swahili, French, etc. And also to have EXMK cadres as board of directors and strategic managers on all critical infrastructure as part of the counterintelligence team of practitioners to deal with theft, sabotage, subversion, and even espionage in our state-owned enterprise. Most of our EXMK cadres have a basic training in military combat work, MCW, which can be easily converted into intelligence and counterintelligence training. So they can be reoriented and be deployed as the board of directors in our state-owned enterprise, and be able to assist in terms of the combating of endangered security. And they also can be deployed as ambassadors, trade representatives, and diplomats in our various countries to assist also calling critical intelligence for our service. With the training that they can be given, it can easily be transformed into becoming effective agents for collection of critical information. If we can move to the next slide, that's agents of change for aid. we're looking here also having MKK as being responsible for the establishment and management of street committees as early warning system, including government warning on water leaks, issues of service delivery and stability. As we know, the current challenges that are facing our local governments here, if we could have our cadres deployed to be able to assist our agencies, our departments with information, early warning information that they can get from the communities where they stay, then this could assist in terms of government and departments and agencies reacting swiftly to challenges that are there. Also be responsible for renewal of the branches, their monitoring and evaluation. I also look at the issues of providing political education in these branches, as well as the vetting of leadership in the branch. They can undergo the vetting courses which are provided by the state security agencies, so that they can be instruments to multiply the capacity of our vetting institutions to be able to especially looking at it from the eye of the needle perspective, that if we could have cadres that meet the expectations of the movement for them to be in leadership positions. And also for them to be deployed as lecturers at the OR school, OR campus political school, to provide lectures, training on the history of the movement, on the movement being able to play an effective role in our communities and be utilized effectively to be change agents within the organization, and also to be pioneers of township and the rural economy. We are looking at that EXMK to be utilized as model.
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you.
Okay. That they should also be used as models for the township economy, so that they could assist, for example, with regard to the presentation that was done by Comrade Makai, Clarence Finan, on local economy, the development of local economy. But also there are other areas where we could look at, which I think is very critical that we should pay particular attention to, is the areas of the private security industry, which is currently one of it is actually the largest in terms of personnel that are there, that we should revisit the areas of the private security industry, the transport security issues, maritime, rail, air, and road security, the issue of biodiversity security management, where our species, protected species, as Comrade Sisti was referring to in terms of our national values, where we can play a very important role in terms of preventing issues like rhino poaching, and also assisting in terms of making sure that there is proper coordination between the various services in terms of the fusion centers that have been established to combat crime and corruption. I think that is all as far as I'm concerned. I can assist in terms of Comrade Sisti's presentation. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to ask 60 now to actually just comment on that sterling work. Thank you very much, Commissioner Castro. That was very good. I mean, I knew that you'd be able to play the role very well, and you actually did it. Thanks. 60, you are on the speaker, my chief. Do you want to just give a reflection, maybe a high-level reflection on what you heard? And, if you want to add anything, this is your moment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think Castro has said a lot that I would have said. Yes, Doc, I can hear you.
Okay, no, perfect. Are we able to hear, comrades are able to hear 60? He's actually trying to...
Doc.
No, I can hear you very well, but I just want to check if everybody else can actually hear you too. Are we able to hear? Okay. No, you're perfect. We can hear you very well. You continue, my chief. $60. Go ahead. Okay. We'll actually just then continue. All he's actually saying is that he has had, Castro very well, and Castro has actually covered everything that he actually wanted him to cover. And I think at this stage, what we'll then do, we will then just take people's inputs, questions, and effectively comments, and welcome those who actually join us quite later on. Then, yes, Madam.
Thank you very much, Comrade Doc. Thank you, Commander Cyril, Commissar Castro. Very well written and well articulated piece of work that lays a good foundation for our discussion. Now, Mina, the angle that I want to come in is that I do believe that when we talk national security, especially Commander Cyril has laid a good foundation with that house and so on. Now I'm taking it from there and building it up in terms of now taking it to how it should be translated in as far as I think it should be done. Our section 198 of the Constitution already tells us how we need to approach the matter of national security. And according to section 198, it tells us that the fundamental principle is that our people should have freedom from fear and freedom from want. Now, when I look at how as government we are implementing section 198, we are found wanting. Because we are trying to move up, as Commander Cyril has said, because of the Copenhagen resolution, whatever, now countries look at national security in a people-centric form. We also in South Africa has adopted that. But when you come and look at the implementation of that, you find that our speak, our rhetoric is contra to our doing. We are not implementing what we say we are. I will make an example. When we look at the Constitution that talks of freedom from want and freedom from fear, we tend to lean more on being state-centric, not people-centric. And how do I see that? You see that by Commander Cyril has also now put that we are more on security-related issues that address freedom from fear. You talk about what the SSA does, what the police do, what the correctional services do, what the home affairs do, and so on. You are not talking about issues of economy. Another thing is that you look at what the SSA addresses. Commander Cyril has already broken it down in terms of the focal points being sabotage, subversion, and counter this and so on and so on. Those things address threats. Again, we are not focusing on opportunities, which is what is going to address the freedom from want. Because here the government has a responsibility of ensuring safety on one hand, but prosperity on the other hand. But what we are doing, we are more focused on the issues of crime, issues of corruption, we are not addressing issues that will make a better life. We say it with our mouth. Government says it in their speeches and policies and so on. We want our people to have a better life, better life for all and so on. But when we come back now in terms of implementing that, we don't put the necessary systems and processes and structures and all that to also address the freedom from want. Okay, let me move from that one. And I have so many things to say, but I can't, it can't be only me. There are many hands. So I will leave this one for now. I will come back again. I will jump to the role of MK quickly. I want to say, indeed, when it comes to the paper addressing national security, as far as the role of EXMK in the ANC is concerned, I agree, 100%. But when you go to the role of EXMK when it comes to issues that have to do with government, I do not agree in this way. Yes, it is a good idea, but it has to be preceded by something. Without that something, it cannot fly. We will just, express our desire. We will be rhetoric about it, but it can never be implemented. So where's the starting point with that one? We live in a country that right now, our government, the ANC government, is being attacked using lawfare, meaning that anything that our ANC government does, you will find it being challenged in the courts of law. So you will not talk about doing all these things in government for MK without any legislation supporting that. Now, I believe that for what the comrades have put in place, which is good, I agree with it. I'm saying it has to be preceded by something. So I'm saying for it to be successful, we need to start at looking into the Military Veterans Act number 18 of 2011. This is where the ground work has to begin, because it is that act that has to separate military veterans from war veterans. Because with war veterans, you are going to have this positive discrimination in favor and be biased in favor of the war veterans because of all the history and so on. Right now, as long as we have a Military Veterans Act that puts all of us, with those who benefited within apartheid and those who fought against the system, now having been on the same level field, which actually is not the truth. So I'm saying we need to focus first on dealing with this act, because this act is going now to have all these things that the comrades are saying. And I think as former National Council, we need to, I said it one time in advocacy, I still say it, let us make it our problem that we are going to deal with the matter of this act. Let us make sure that we lobby our comrades in parliament and so on. Let's make sure that all the prescripts that we want, that is to be in favor of us, are legislated, so that once we now take the proposals of the comrades, as they have said, we know exactly that it is implementable. No one is going to do it undercover, because once you do it undercover, lawfare comes in. So can I pause right now? Thank you so much, Comrade Dada.
Okay, now thanks, Madam. I see Cyril is back. He's actually sitting in the dark, but he can actually hear. I hope 60, you can follow, am I correct? Did you hear to Comrade Salih's input? 60, can you hear me? Okay, he's there, but I'm not sure whether he's muted or is not able to hear, but I hope that he's actually able to hear all that input. So what we'll do, we'll actually then just take, a few hands. I know that Tony's hand has also been up. Maybe we actually can take Tony's hand. And then Commissar MKM, then you're going to follow that. Now, of course, it's fundamentally important to actually just mention, Commissioner Saleh, that some of the issues you have raised, Moss will actually be taking over soon. As in either next week, possibly next week. I must just check on the calendar. He will be talking exactly some of the issues in terms of what needs to change as far as the act is concerned. But we have already, tabled a broad framework on some of those issues. What you've highlighted is quite correct. Those are things that we need to work within the framework of the law, and that means we need to lay the foundation first before we can actually start picking up all the demands. They must lie on the foundation. But okay, without having to actually just respond to everything else that you've actually said, which is very constructive and helpful for us, we will be able to actually just move on to Tony. Comrade Tony, this is your moment, my chief.
Thanks, Comrade Malik. I'm a bit hesitant now. This is becoming seemingly my contribution or input between me and Sally. But I think other comrades will also come in. I also want to echo the same sentiments that Usali has just expressed, being grateful for the input by the team of Comrade 60 and Comrade Castro, which is laying a foundation for this discussion, which is a very critical and fundamental discussion with regards to any other topic, because if you talk national security and you talk patriotism, you talk identity of a nation. So you can talk any other thing, but if you don't have an identity as a nation, and then you have a problem, because then there's no loyalty. There's fragmented kind of loyalties, if I may put it like that, as it is in currently in South Africa. So, which all boils down to, I think, without repeating what Sally has said, but the legislative framework. We adopt policies in our national conferences, and some of them find their way to Parliament, and they get to be passed as acts of Parliament. As an example, Act 198, the Veterans Act, whatever, establishment of the DMV. But practically, you find that as much as the policies have been put in place, the people that are supposed to be driving those policies, and we've got practical examples. I'm going to give you a recent, which is happening right now in the Department of MEC Mabulo of Transport, where veterans are being given an opportunity within this space of COVID to monitor adherence at schools. There's a political will. The MEC is there. the officials, when they are with the MEC, they agree, because I want to practicalize this. And then when you filter it down to the officials, these are the same officials who would be frustrating the veterans. Now, when you see people out there looking at what is the so-called behavior, I don't want to go into those politics of who goes to Lutuli House, what happened in St. George's Hotel, and all of that, because it's neither here nor there for this discussion. But there's a perception that these veterans are spoiled.
Yes, I can hear you, Doc. I'm saying I heard Commissar Sali, but not because I'm using my phone in this darkness. And
sorry, Comrade Tony. Welcome, Comrade 60. You will. I'm happy you can actually just hear. Let's just let Comrade Tony finish, and then we'll continue. But thank you very much for letting us know that you are back online. Thanks, Nyamaza. Tony, you can continue. You can wrap it up, Achi.
Yes. So, yeah, when Comrade 60 spoke earlier on, before the last slide, he made reference to something that he forgot or he missed, which is on this house and the structure that he built with the roof, the foundation. And that's where the issue should be, I think, in our discussion when it comes to national security. The foundation should be the core, and I refer to it without coming to the pillars as national interests, but the foundation should be on patriotism. And when you start with patriotism, then you know what is derived from patriotism. It's your culture, it's your values, and your national interests. And then it brings to the fore the issue of what it is that the role of MK within the national discourse, and also immediately, because before your national discourse, you've got to have a unified and a one marching direction ANC to achieve that long-term goal. And that talks to your economic emancipation. So there has to be a will in all these structures, starting from the ANC. So you need to revisit how and I know Comrade 60 referred to Comrade Omri, and I fully agree with Comrade Omri with the state of affairs that we find ourselves in. So if we can't have a strong ANC that we are accustomed to, we can't effectively implement any legislation, as no matter how good it is, if we don't have the right people. As a closure, I'll give you an example. Before we came into government in 1994, the national, it was BOSS and then what was it? NIS, yes. After BOSS, it was NIS. NIS decided, because I'm coming to this national security issue, NIS decided that every branch of the government department, they will second their own people, be it government printers. We saw Comrade, the late Comrade China went to be seconded in government printers, and then he went back to V, and 60 will know that. But immediately when we came back, all of these individuals that were deployed in Pelindaba, anyway, in these strategic places, that's why we have problems of ESCOM today, because had we have, in Comrade 60 spoke about forewarning, had we have people placed in these strategic parastatals, Denel is in trouble, AMSCO is in trouble, because we don't have intelligence to forewarn the state or our own comrades in government. And somewhere, somehow, we have to ask ourselves, how was this construed? And how was this designed? Is it deliberate? And then it talks to the nature of our economic setup. Because then, therefore, would the capitalist allow a strong ANC to be in all these departments to advise and forewarn the decision makers? I'll leave it out there, comrades, for discussion. I've got other points, but I don't want to monopolize this conversation.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Hopefully, we'll then just take Mojaki and then we can give Comrade 62 reflect and then we can take another round. Commissar Mojaki, go ahead. Ooh. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So I'll just go ahead, my chief. Sorry. Go ahead, Commissar.
Are you on me?
Yes, the floor is yours. After you, then we're just going to give 60 an opportunity to reflect, and then we go to another round as well. Thanks. Go ahead and keep it brief if you can, my chief.
I'll be very, very brief, my leader. First, let me thank Comrade 60 for the well-researched, well-documented, and well-presented document. We'll interrogate it further beyond this day. I actually have 15 questions, but I'm not going to ask all of them. I'll pen them down, and then I hope everybody who was on the platform will be able to access my questions and my views on these things. But there's one predominant thing that I wanted to talk about, which Comrade Tony and Comrade Sali mentioned in passing. And that will be the only question that I would ask. Do we really have national security agency in South Africa? I doubt that very, very much. We don't have. And in practical sense, since 1994, we never had. If we had a state security agency that is functional, that is capacitated, the Guptas will not have captured our state. The gangsters in Gauteng and in Western Cape will not have mushroomed the way they have been mushroomed. The June incidents of looting and thievery will not have taken place. The influx of foreigners in our country will not be giving us the type of problem that it is giving us currently as we are sitting here and talking. So we don't have the national security. You know, in one of my latest writings, I said the African National Congress and its government have become so very good theoreticians, but very, very bad practitioners. We've got the laws, the legislations in place that are very, very progressive and that could be productive. Nothing is actually this is I was looking at the Comrade and remember that I participated in the KCPSC
your line is like breaking up. Your line is breaking up. My leader, your line is breaking up. We can hear staccato. We can only hear staccato from here on, but we can't hear much.
I don't know which part you heard and which part you missed.
No. It's when you are wrapping up. It's when you are wrapping up when you got cut off. So maybe you can just give us your wrap up again, and then we can leave it there if you can, so that we can make sure that we did capture everything.
Yeah, I was literally saying that we are good in talking, but very bad in implementing. What we need to do, Tina as MK, as former MK, actually have to take this thing by force and make sure that we are there, rather than just saying that if they put us there, let us force ourselves into that space and occupy that space of intelligence on the sectors and the prongs that Comrade 60 referred to here, because talking will not assist us. I wanted to continue, but I think I need to give other people chance. What I will do is that immediately after, I will pen this thing down, send them to Comrade Malik, hoping that everybody who was on that group here can get my sentiments around these issues. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I think you have actually closed it, your point on a very important one, which I must actually make it now. If there is any point that we are not able to actually cover here today, please just inbox me or Moss, whoever's got you have got access to, Mashomula, Castro, or even Mujaki himself. Just drop an input there, whether it's in writing, so that at least we can capture all of this. Because obviously, it's always very difficult to actually go through each and each and every issue. This is a very broad and very heavy topic. Okay, 60. I think if you can hear me, this is your opportunity for you to just reflect on what you've heard. I can summarize it for you. Are you able to hear me? Cyril, are you able to hear me, my chief? Okay, he looks frozen. So what we will do, we will then effectively just continue. I mean, like so far, it is clear that what we're actually getting is more input, trying to actually just help us to clarify the issues and clear up our minds on some of these. It's a very complex topic. So, and I don't see much of questions so far, which is good, given that the presenter is actually frozen. Yeah, so I think what we can then do is to take the other lot. Mashomula, folks, you were there and you're gone. Because I saw your hand and I think I don't see it anymore. So, okay, I think it's probably gone.
No, thanks, Commissar. And
oh, sorry, I don't even see you. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
No, thanks a lot. I think Commissar Mujaki would have covered most of these areas, but just to say, I think the other problem that we need to look into is when we are drawn into the situation as MK or ex-MK members. Because I think we know that we have now credibility issue that needs to be dealt with because of it was compromised by other people and it has messed up a lot. We ourselves as an interest party, we need to look into that part. But the issue around the border management, you link it up with the issue of foreign invasion by foreign nationals, because if you have over 15 million people in the country and you have your railway, your electrical infrastructure, your economic infrastructure being sabotaged by those people, and we say nothing to date, and you have this xenophobia that is going, and we say nothing, we have an issue that is very serious around security. And Castro, they would have touched around the identity security and other related security. And it's imperative that which Mujaki would have raised around whether do we have a national security in this country as an agency. And the answer is capital N-O. Perhaps our posture should be, to go back and look at those security components that are supposed to be existing. And the unfortunate part is that I'm not so sure if the president really listens and whether the ANC really listens. Because on several occasions, commissars of MK, and I know from the National Council, comrades would go and talk to the president, to the top six, a number of things that would have happened to date, including the July chaos, and you go back to quite a number of things. But you just don't get to be listened to. So now the problem is how do we, and this is the same thing with the renewal of the ANC, that you have policy documents that are in place, and out of 10 things, half of, or one or half of that is implemented or attempted to. So the will to do anything in the ANC is gone. And we should be looking seriously at whether whatever we're going to conclude on at some point, whether at the conference of MK, whether it will ever be listened to anybody. And in the event it's not listened to, what do we do? But you're also looking the unfolding of multi-party democracy taking effect. As I earlier said, the integrity of MK is a problem that needs to be attended to because of these pep store military combatants that you see all over, either in Litulia or marching with Ismachashula all over. If we do not clean up that, the rest of the multi-party government that is almost in the next 2 years, you might see it coming into government. Would they listen to you? Would they listen to the MK that I just spoke to, or the ex-combatants of MK that I just spoke to? Unless we begin the process of the conference brings us closer to a point where we're able to cleanse ourselves and we're able to show the MK that our people knew and loved, so that we engage with the multi-party. Because we are for South Africans, we are for South Africa, hence we're talking national security, and we're not necessarily as members of MK only for the ANC, but for this country. This is what we fought for. So, and that is what we need to be able to communicate and be understood to be defending or to be pro of. And I just think it is imperative that we look into it in that particular fashion because we have issues from ourselves, from the existence of the security, and the rest of the country is dependent on all those elements. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, folks. Thank you very much. Now, I mean, some of the points again you've made are quite relevant. I mean, Comrade Ray is here. He will recall that we actually sent a delegation and met the president as far back as 2019, I think, Ray, it was, warning him about some of the things that happened in St. George's recently. But we were ignored. I mean, like well, comrades actually enjoyed coffee because the president did make a wonderful coffee then, and it was nice and very, very good meeting. But beyond that, beyond the coffee, there was nothing. And then later on, we're talking of hostages that might not be hostages, and all sorts of complicated stories. So when it comes to listening, we are not 100% sure whether that's the case or not. Castro, your hand is up. Go ahead, leadership.
I was going to try and respond to some of the issues if
Okay.
60 would not. So I don't know.
Yes, please.
Maybe should we allow for questions to go on and then later on.
Yeah, I thought what we could do, maybe we can take, because I see there is only one. Sister Rips, her hand was up. I don't know what happened to that hand. Okay, I see she's raising up like she's in high school again. Now we can actually have her, and then we can have Comrade Sally again, and then after these two, then you can actually just take over. 60 is frozen. He is hearing everything. I mean, I've been trying to track him on the side to make sure that he's actually tuned in, so he's able to hear. But for some reason, he looks frozen, and he has not actually. He has an opportunity to respond, but you will actually respond after these two hands, so that at least we can give a rounded response that will probably take us to closure at some point. And of course, Ray as well will give his contribution. Then maybe Sis Rips, you go ahead, and then we take Sally again.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Malik. I would like to also thank Comrade 60 for a very well-researched document, and his team, including Comrade Castro. You know, I agree a lot with a lot that has been said, because that is factual. I have a problem, though, with us looking too much inwardly as ex-combatants of Umkhonto weSizwe. When we have problems like, national unity, right now we are looking at the mushrooming of so many Mickey Mouse parties in South Africa. That, as far as I'm concerned, is not democracy. In fact, that kind of democracy, even here in Europe. The EU is going to hold a conference early next year on what is democracy. So right there you see a redefinition, a realignment of the so-called democratic forces. But we have an advantage in South Africa where, we did in the 50s and 60s have formations in the white community, in the Indian community, in the colored community, where people had come together to fight against apartheid. I think, amongst other things, that is not the only thing, amongst other things, we can harness the energy that is in organizations right now, like Protect Our Constitution, Protect Our Democracy. Maybe I'm distorting the names because I've been here, out here for a long time through COVID. I couldn't come home. But there are all those, I think Oshila can understand what I'm talking about. We have to build a South Africa that is livable for all South Africans. When we talk security, we talk national interest. We cannot overlook the fact that we are still very fragmented. For example, you find that when we are here in the diplomatic posts, some of the ambassadors that don't come from our ranks, what they promote is the Western Cape and wines there and so on. And until you come and say, no, South Africa is bigger than wines in the Western Cape. South Africa also has agriculture in Limpopo. South Africa has got, a myriad of resources that, can benefit our country. So, in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that not all of us who purport to represent South Africa actually represent the unitary South Africa that you and I believe in. There are people who still represent this corner and that corner. And until we have this kind of cohesion, not only on paper, our Department of Culture always talks about social cohesion. But I think they have it all wrong. because it is still inwardly looking. It's like we are waiting for a ready-made entity that we can just transplant and then claim as our own. In the meantime, we want to defend ourselves against being called xenophobic. But we don't have the guts to stand on the platform and explain how people like Kretschmer, for example, came to South Africa. We only knew about Kretschmer, who is illegal, by the way, in South Africa also, when he committed a crime and was caught. And he can't be the only one. There are many others. So what my contribution is, and I'll definitely contact you and Moss, Comrade Malik, in writing, because this is very close to my heart. It interests me quite a lot. That's why last time I mentioned SIVA, which was supposed to have been launched a long time ago, and even today we are still in a maze motion. You know, in that committee of ours, Manala now has died. I am here. But at least people like Farouk, Kulibo Felix, Botabo, they are still there. Let us see to it that we revive these things and move away from making ourselves targets to be used. Somebody talked about legislation. Legislation is important, and that is where entities like SIVA come in, because if SIVA is a legal entity and using government resources to operate, then there will be monitoring. We have to see to it that there is that kind of monitoring so that we don't stray and become other forces that are very amorphous without shame. Because the politics of the stomach, unfortunately, will be with us for as long as our economic development is so sluggish. And ikistagato, Comrade Malik. Yeah, stop. Yeah, stop. So those are things that really perturb me all the time as I am sitting here and thinking about the country that we love, the country that we missed out on our youth. You know, our youth was spent discussing and dealing with national issues. Disco. Fortunately, some of us are but you know, thank you.
No, thanks, Ms. Rips. That was a good one. Thanks, Ms. Rips. Okay, I think we take Commissioner Sali, and then we actually give an opportunity to Castro to respond, and then we'll take another round. Sali, your hand is up.
Thank you, Doc. Yeah, I want to say, indeed, you know, us being a EXMK and insisting that we have a role to play in national security is not by accident. Indeed, we were involved in a people's war, and we were the soldiers of the people. And it is because of this people centricity of how we approach national security. So for us, it's really natural. It's just, so it can never be correct that when we were fighting for our people, when our people have gotten their freedom, now we are actually by the wayside. It can never be correct. And no one is going to make it possible that we are in the inner of things but ourselves. And I want to agree with Sis Rips to say My way of looking at the fact that we are navel gazing, we are inward looking, is already the fact that for us, we, at this time when the elections, the local government elections have shown us that it is possible that we cannot have the ANC as the dominant party. It is like so urgent that we actually not only look amongst ourselves as MK, but we forge unity with other liberation war veterans so that we stand as a mighty force for our I don't believe that we're going to win if we're only going to tackle these things only as XMK. It's something that we can think about. But if we are going to be navel gazing, indeed, we're only going to say we're XMK, and trust me, our role will be relegated into the bottom part of the presentation where ANC is involved, not where the bigger things are. And my number two is to say, Sis Rips, I want to tell you, the silver thing and so on, we were on the verge of launching. I had contacted Bo, you know, those Nis, Tanis, and Bo, those people from the Ts and so on and so on. I can share with you the document I started from scratch. I even did some research into saying how does France utilize their own, how does the US do it, how does China do it. So it's something that is research to say we cannot say veterans in the intelligence can retire because this is a lifelong profession and here is evidence. It's happening worldwide. So already we had moved strides and we were just on the verge of launching. Comrade Farouk can tell you, I was in contact with him and Abo Sisont and all that until the COVID struck and reshuffle happened. I don't know our new minister whether he is going to look into that. But indeed, as ISIVA, because ISIVA, comrades, it's a conglomerate, is it the word, of veterans of intelligence. Whether they come from NIS or DIS or PAS or NIS or T or whatever, but it's about veterans of intelligence. That is what I'm saying then, to say we can't just look at XMK. I think if we want to make an impact, let us strategize to see. I'm not talking about liberation war veterans layer, but what do we normally refer to the young ones? No, I'm talking about.
For correction, they call themselves liberation struggle war veterans.
Oh yes, I'm not talking about.
Just remember the S in the middle. Then you'll see the
I'm talking about the
differentiator.
liberation war veterans.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes, you know when you discuss with comrades from Azanla, from Apla, I'm telling you, those people have brains. And I think with them, because they were not in government, they still have that radicalism that we compromised as we went along. And we do need that fire from them so that we can remember that actually we cannot be satisfied with crumbs. We had a role to play as people soldiers, and we have a role to play to build this country for the sake of national security. Thank you, Commissar.
Awesome. No, thank you very much, Commissar Sally. Maybe then at this stage, let's just quickly give 60 an opportunity to actually just respond. He does say that he is able to hear, and then after that, maybe Castro can also pitch in, and then we'll take Comrade Ray and Tony and Ishmael after that. And then we also move it closer to home. 60.
Yes, Doc.
Hey, now yeah.
Yes, Doc.
I can see Amalahle yasebenza lapha eMpumalanga. Go ahead.
Yeah, Doc, unfortunately, I couldn't hear a lot of speakers. I just hear there and there. But I would really say that I'm humbled by the comrades for the support that they've given, because without them, we wouldn't be where we are today at this time during load shedding. I fully agree with Commissar Sali. If I had I heard her well when she spoke about that the foundation. I can, if I heard her well, when she said the foundation is the Military Veterans Act. Indeed, ANC, as we are developing these policy documents, the primary objective is to see the rebirth of the ANC, and the ANC is a passage to the Military Veterans Act. Military Veterans Act is a bridge to what we want to achieve in making sure that as EXMK and as Liberation War veterans, we help government at all costs in making sure that our national security is taken care of, and we really give our people a better life. Thank you.
Awesome. No, thanks, 60 for that.
Thanks, Doc.
No, awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for that. Castro, do you want to add to what 60 has said, and then we can take the last round.
Yes, thanks. Just a few areas that I wanted to speak into. One is Comrade Tony's input around the foundation, which I think is critical in terms of developing that element of oneness as a nation. I think we dropped the ball somewhere along the way. After liberation, that we did not emphasize on building that united nation. Also, along the way, also we were skeptical, of emphasizing on issues of security. I think because of the previous regime being a securocrat type of state, the ANC administration that came in wanted to negate that posture or perception of a securocrat state. And to such an extent that we tended to even overlook certain critical elements of insecurity. And most importantly is the emphasis on the fact that security is the other side of the coin of development. Development cannot happen on its own without the security component. Whatever you develop, whatever you create, whatever you establish, your resources, your infrastructure, and whatever, you must be settled. Your people must be settled. So security is goes hand in hand. It's intertwined to development. And then also the issue raised by Comrade Christie, which I think is very important, linked to this aspect that we sort of dropped the ball on the issue of security. But now, what is to be done? To be learning, I think Usali has given us an important answer that we have to focus on the Military Veterans Act. Currently, there's a work stream in the presidential task team, which is dealing with these issues of liberation war veterans, which deals specifically with the definition of the military veterans, those that were with the statutory forces and those who were with the non-statutory forces. I think we should play a very critical role there when Comrade Moss presents next week, perhaps we should also look at how can we effectively play a part in terms of defining, giving a proper definition, so that it also helps in terms of what we want to achieve based on what Comrade City has presented. And then so the issue of operational security, the areas which just to respond to Comrade talks, the areas that are very important to look at are those areas that most of the agencies that were there before, guys that were in NIST, guys that were in the SAPF, guys that were in the SAPF, the South African Police Force, in the apartheid system. They have pulled out of the state agencies and they've established themselves in the private security. And we have to really look at this, because the private security industry currently, if we overlook it, it's one of the biggest threats if we don't harness it and channel it. Again, we need to look at opportunities that are there within the transport sector, the maritime, air, rail, and road, where MK should play a very big role. Those agencies, those state-owned enterprises, we need to also have an input in terms of where can our comrades be utilized, because those are very strategic sectors. But if we don't play a role there, we will have them being run by the former statutory forces. Again, with regard to the defense industry, the defense industry in most countries is used for the benefit of the military veteran. And we should also, as Liberation War veterans, be benefiting from the advancement of the defense. The defense industry right now is on its knees. We should be able to drive it, how it is moving in terms of being able to compete effectively with other defense industries abroad. Lastly, with regard to the other issues that I have, but I will address them later on. The issue of what Comrade Sali was talking about with regard to the LWV movement. These activities that have been happening, whereby we had people occupying Lutuli House and going to St. George's and the ministers being kept hostage, if that is the case. I think we should actually take serious concern about it, because at the end of the day, our name is there. We are also said, it is said it's MK, former MK guy. And if it's said former MK, when you come out and say I'm a former MK guy, so people would say you were one of those who took the minister's hostage. And therefore, what Comrade Sadi is suggesting, I think, is very critical in the sense that we need to drive some way, somehow we need to get to be able to channel it appropriately. Because most of the guys that are there, the majority of them, are guys who train late in Tanzania, Uganda, and also and the STU. And then also some of the young Abla and it is important that we should not leave them to go astray. And especially those who are within as commissars, those who are political commissars, to be able to give guidance. So somehow we need to develop a way of engaging these guys and be able to assist them so that whatever they do should not tarnish the glorious name of our liberation struggle force.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Comrade Castro, on that input. Again, a whole lot of relevant issues there. Just one or two things before we actually move to Ismail. The issue of the BMA. Now, some here might recall that it probably must be about 5-6 months ago. We actually led a presentation to Minister Mutwaledi. I mean, I was part of that delegation. We engaged Minister Mutwaledi on this specific issue. And we're happy to share that presentation, and we invited 60, as well. He will recall, he was part of that process, given his expertise. But the critical issue there for us was to say, for lack of better language, please excuse my French, we were screwed in 1994. Now, I mean, people actually left. Like I've got a relative who's actually still there. In the Air Force, they will always tease me about how, with all the education I had when I left, I still was just a troop and no rank and no nothing. You see, but the issue here, is that the BMA represents the single most critical opportunity for people like us, EXMK, and of course ex-Liberation War veterans, and definitely not struggle war veterans. That's that. Now we had to defend that definition quite a lot lately, just to show the separation. Now, Minister Mutwaledi seemed to actually, understood this, because the argument there was actually very simple. And one of the models that we actually put on the table was a model that Ambassador Assistenji, who was here, is also quite familiar with. In Spain, the Guardia Civil. Now, Guardia Civil, is sort of a BMA. They play a role in many ways. They've got intelligence services. They've got physical, guarding aspect of it. They've got a police crime aspect and all those type of things. So I said, look, of course, in there, because they are actually working with all the other departments there. But we need to be the nucleus of that, because when it comes to some of the borders that they're talking about, some of us cross those borders, without a passport and everything else. So the reality is that we know the potential routes for people smuggling and everybody else, and it's actually quite important that we actually have. But above all, it's related to what Comrade Tony mentioned earlier on the issue of patriotism. So obviously, you can't ask, how patriotic people are if people have actually placed their lives on the line in pursuit of effectively their own truths, so to speak. Trying to prove their own truths, and this is who we are. So all I was just saying is all those issues, we keep knocking our heads on those doors, and hopefully someone will listen. Now, Comrade Ray, you are back. You are next, my chief, and then Ismail goes ahead. I'm sure his hand must be sore now. It has been up for a while. But yeah, Ray, go ahead.
Okay, no, thanks, Commissar. Special appreciation to Commissar 60 for the presentation, and I was struggling with my connection. That's why I think the link that you gave us on the email, I think, is not the right one, and I saw other people struggling with it, but I finally managed to connect. But what I want to say mainly is, I think our starting point as MK members is the fact that we need to go back and be assertive in the ANC. We can talk of these other avenues and all that, but all of them are secondary. The main point of entry is our assertiveness within the ANC.
Remember, people do not take us serious anywhere, whether you go to Sanva, you go to departments or anything, because we're not taken serious by the ANC, our very organization. Therefore, if you're not taken serious by your family, by your parents, you can't expect next door neighbors to give you a certain standing that even your parents cannot give you. Therefore, our fundamental problem as members of MK is within our very organization. Therefore, we need to solve that. Our standing and the way we're treated within the ANC needs to be attended to. I know there are all sorts of concerns that have been raised, including the one that has been raised by Comrade Marshall Mula around our challenges with integrity and the way we've conducted ourselves in recent times. But we need something around that. We need to be given a certain standing. And if we're given that standing as expected, then we're going to claim back our space. Remember, our space is in the peace and stability. That is the main space, that is our reserve within the ANC. If we are assertive with what the standing that we expected of the ANC, we are then going to be able to shape what is happening in the peace and stability. Remember, in the ANC, we are the only people who've got security competence. But most of us are outside that space. People who are in that space are people of, most of them do not have any association, or they've got limited association with us, MK. Therefore, that's a space that we need. If we can have the influence that is required to build peace and stability, all our battles in Sanva, in various departments and all that, it's going to be feasible because we'll be having real power within the ANC, which can be translated into our government. Therefore, I think very important is we need to attend to the question of us having real representation in peace and stability. Then another part on the issue of national security, I'll also take something around the issue of patriotism. I think there's a very big problem that we inherited when we came back into the country. Our leaders never spoke of patriotism in any form or shape. They were afraid to speak of patriotism. The same thing that we saw in the countries that we stayed in, where their leaders, when they were opening their mouth, first thing that they were talking about the love for their country. We struggled about that. Hence, we could not define anything. We struggled to shape our national security policies because we struggled about one thing, that we want to prepare and base everything on the love for our country. And if we had that from the very beginning, that we love our country first, then it was going to be simple to defend our people, either from foreigners or from any other person. But we could not do that because we could not define expressly that we want to defend our country. If you can't define expressly that you want to defend your country, you can't really defend your people. That's how our people complain with our government, complain with us. They accuse us that we have sold the country out because there's something very missing in everything that we do. The love for the country is not there. Therefore, that's the problem. And because there's no love for our country, we've allowed lawlessness to prevail. And where there's lawlessness, there's no prosperity. Lawlessness brings starvation, unemployment, economic decline, and everything that you could possibly think of. Therefore, my small contribution, because it's already late, is let's make sure that we as MK will become as assertive as expected. Our first point of call, let's go to the peace and stability. Then all these other things that are going to be coming after that, I think they're going to be very easy to handle if we've got the foothold that we expect in the peace and stability. Then maybe the last thing, I think maybe on the issue of us always finding ourselves in this situation around our worsening situation, our inability to influence what is happening in the country's security posture. I think, comrades, we must accept one thing that we did that was wrong when we came back, either from exile or from wherever. The notion that we could fight very jealously for this country, and when we come into the country, we take everything, we throw it on the table, and expect people that they'll take whatever that we brought out of the struggle, use it or do whatever, but at the end of the day, consider us. I think that was the biggest mistake. If we check the bulk of members of MK, Most of them, they went to the army. They left everything. We are never there in the local government, the provincial, national. Anyway, we went in the army, and in the army, they sorted us out. We gave those who wanted to sort us out and the simplest way of tackling us in one group, because all of us went to the defense. And what did they do? All of us, they frustrated us with ranks and treatment, and all of us were in the space of 2 or 3 years out of the defense force. Therefore, what we're facing today is a problem that happened between 1994 and 1997, and we're still struggling with it. And anybody who can try and do something around it, there's no other person except ourselves. And the only space that we have is the space that we have now, given the fact that the political influence we and the movement we're having now is shrinking every day. Therefore, if we do things or we plan things, I urge you, my comrades, let's act in speed. We don't have time on our side. The developments that we're seeing in this country tells us that if we don't do something in 2 years, all that we're talking about, the benefits and everything, will be history. Therefore, everything should be done in the quickest time possible so that at least we can salvage something for ourselves. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Okay, thanks, Commander Ray, for that wonderful input. Thank you very much. We're going to take Ishmael. He's the only person who hasn't spoken yet on that list. Ishmael, are you still awake? You fell asleep while you're raising your hand?
I'm available, Chair.
Yeah, okay. I think it looks like you might have to expropriate that without any recognition at all or compensation. You go ahead.
Comrade Malik, I must say I've missed that energy of Comrade Ray for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, whilst I've been listening to all of you, that you were referring to previous discussions of this nature, and I wasn't privy to them, honestly, until I got this from Dan. I don't know what happened with my link with the Gauteng MK National Council, you know.
Okay, sorry about that, but we posted them everywhere where we could. But you are here.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, but be that as it may is. Look, let me start re-emphasizing the issue of the email address. May we kindly send our email addresses either to you or Juwaliso, to yourself and Ray, so that for future purposes, I want to insist on this matter, because we end up talking on our phones right now, whereas at times we're able or capable to be conversing on our desktops or on our laptops, you know, so that we can move between phones and laptops or desktops, you know. And then if there are documents to be circulated beforehand, then the nucleus of the organization in this format is able to email documents beforehand. Then we don't have extended discussions to this hour, where certain of our responsibilities, some of us are supposed to be preparing supper or dishing supper. You know, so
lunch.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, let me quickly go to my points. And I support the idea of submitting matters in writing. Hence, I'm suggesting that let's submit to you and Comrade Ray and whomever in the organizing committee. We submit our email addresses, and then it makes life easier. Because I know Den Hato wanted to be part of this. I spoke to him. He was rushing home. So I didn't know. I was trying to call him before 6, at 5 to 6, so that he can link in. But I know he's not technically savvy, you know. I call him Sasa. So yeah, taba Sasa wabo. Yeah, so yeah, indaba zesasa, you know. Now I started receiving my Sasa last one. So yeah, let me get back on a serious note. House Rips referred to a very, very critical matter on the national democratic struggle. I don't want to call it national democratic revolution, as much as 60 doesn't want to call people terrorists, because we didn't have a revolution in this country. So House Rips referred to an issue that is very, very critical when it comes to involvement. We forgot our army, and Sally also referred to that we thought, or we are thinking that the ANC were the only people that were fighting in this country. Now, we used to have in all these countries, and even in South Africa, even in different terms, but let me, for a lack of a better word, use a commonly used term, patriotic front. We've got the AZAPO, Azanian Liberation Movement. We've got PAC, is it called Umkapla, whatever? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but we've got this liberation movement, and who are faced with a similar problem that we're faced with. And then we've got the death of the civil society. I mean, we used to have your South African Council of Churches. We used to have all these movements that subscribe to the notion of the liberation of this country. And that, I hope you are listening to me, to the issue of nationalism. You know?
Let's try and wrap it up, my chief.
All of a sudden, yes, I'm wrapping it up, my chief. All of a sudden, we found ourselves as an island. We are being called the ANC. And even that ANC is not us. We're also, as members of the ANC, we're questioning, who is this ANC? We're as members of the ANC, because before we're members of Umkhonto weSizwe, we're members of the ANC. We're even questioning, who is this ANC that people are referring to? You know? So I'm going to fast track to Comrade Ray's comments. In order to strengthen these structures, we need to deal with the gatekeeping issue. You know? The gatekeeping issue is what is killing the organization. Because wherever you go, I'm here in Pretoria East. I'm here. I always love to give practical examples, Comrade Malik.
Sure.
I'm with Archie here in Mendling. Archie no Naspanali SG. Libo Maibuye. We went to this branch. It's been 5 years. I've been fighting for a branch membership. I've paid, transferring from Pretoria North, not from the Eastern Cape. I'm from the Eastern Cape. Transferring 5 years ago from Pretoria North to Pretoria East. Libo Maibuye.
Comrade Malik, can I come in, please? Comrade, can I come in, please? Can I come
Sorry,
in,
I'm finalizing,
please?
my chief.
Yeah, Comrade Tony, please wrap it up, my chief. It's a little bit late now.
It's late.
Sorry, my chief. Yeah.
My
Okay,
battery
but
is
if we're talking about issues of renewal and unity,
We're talking
need
national
to deal
security
with
for
these
now.
issues.
Comrade, yeah, please, Comrade Malik. The comrade is out of order, please. Comrade, you are out of order, please.
Yeah. You have taken it a little bit far, Comrade Tony. So
No, I withdraw.
okay, thanks, Malik. Yeah, Mojaki, can you take us closer to closing? In 20 minutes, I've got another meeting, so I need to prepare for that and move on. Can we move towards closure, Mojaki?
Thanks, Comrade Chair. Please, in future, Comrade, let's stick to the topic. And then, as the chair, you need to control the situation. You should not let things get out of hand to that level. Comrades, there is one thing that has been moving on, especially between several comrades that spoke after Comrade 16 when he came back. Seemingly, we failed to understand the animal called former MK combatants in relation to the state of governance and the ANC in general, particularly on the matter of security concerns. You know, I have referred to this thing in several papers and then on my presentation before last, that MK in principle was armed politicians, which means our sphere of influence is not only limited to peace and stability, or is it limited to protection of the borders and so on and so forth. Because as armed politicians, we were equipped and empowered and capacitated within the political paradigm of the African National Congress and the envisaged type of a country that we wanted to achieve. So our life, I mean, if you look at the 6 pillars that Comrade 60 has presented, we feature in all of them at different levels and different participatory authority and power that we need to be doing it. So I thought maybe we'll zoom into those 6 legs that he was talking about and say, in each leg, what is it that is expected from us as ex-MK, as former MK combatants, and then how can we be able to influence the entire environment so that our people at the end of the day feel secure and safe within our country. Zooming into that, will be able to make us comprehend the psychological, intellectual, and physical role that MK combatant has to play in making sure that we take the country from where it is to where it was supposed to have been. So that should be our actual focus that we'll be looking into, not only on defending it, because there are intellectuals. There are those intellectuals who are still there within our paradigms. There are those doctors, those philosophers, those engineers, and so many variety of things that we are saying when they are deployed in those specific areas. We're going to have the disruption and the destruction of the NEL, of ESCOM, and all other state-owned enterprises if MK was involved in there. Now we are saying we have learned from those mistakes. We have learned from our past. How do we then utilize all our resources, human resources within MK, to make sure that they play the very constructive role in resuscitating our economy, our society, and of course, our political spheres and spiritual lives. Those are the things that we should be focusing on in making sure that MK is felt in the communities. MK is felt in the municipalities, in the branches, in the regions, in the districts, in the province, and at national level. And that is what our primary objective should be. the utilization of MK, and making sure that we are able to separate MK from ANC, because ANC is MK and MK is ANC. If we can look into that, the issue of security will then fall in place, because we'll be securing and protecting and defending the gains of our revolution from now henceforth, because we plan to do that in 1994 to 2017. I thank you.
No, thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, Commissioner. Stokes, can you give us your last words in closing?
No, thanks, Commissioner. I think Commissioner Mujaki would have, I don't know why always pick me up after him.
Okay, well, maybe that's a way of skipping you.
However, I think the last point that I just want to make is, I think Ursula Becker would have spoken to this, and Comrade Nomsa earlier on. It's imperative that we look at the clock watch today and the credibility of who we are and that of the organization. We know that gangsters have hijacked the organization, and we know that there isn't much in the leadership that in terms of their understanding of the imperatives of the national security and the development as Castro would have put it. And we should be investing more on the approaches and the ways in which we should be advancing our engagement with these colleagues. I don't know what's happening with Comrade Malik, but more and
no,
more.
I'm here, my chief. I'm here. Don't worry.
Okay, thanks. More and more, the problem that I see is internally. It's within the ANC, within the leadership of the ANC, that has not moved an inch in understanding the environment in which they are operating in. And this is the biggest problem that we have. And not that because most of what you have is untrained, unmilitarized leadership, but even the previous leadership of the ANC that comes from exile had a similar problem. We don't know what the story is, but currently we have no organization to speak about. The gangsters have taken over this organization, and more time should be invested in trying to convince these people to understand to the level where you are today. And I've made mention of a point which is similar to how we should be approaching this as military veterans of national liberation movements, all of Sonke. But as well, the councils today are constituted without the ANC. Other parties have taken over governance at local level. And as I said, I'm fearing that it might be the precursor for the national elections. We might find ourselves in the same position, because in Gauteng, ANC is less than 50% officially. Only 43% of people voted in Gauteng in terms of the turnout. Now, the problem that we have it's this credibility of the ex-combatants of MK and all other combatants, because of our behavior. So to the extent we need to cleanse and bring up this, and I hope these processes would assist us by before we get to the conference, and as we get into the conference, and be able to bring these other combatants and have a very clear direction in terms of how do we approach all these national security. In the Defense Force, in the next 5 years or so, you'll have no MK leaders in the Defense Force, because most of them who are now currently in the leadership of the Defense Force would have retired. I don't know where Comrade Sipo is, what is the status, but I'm sure that the behavior of MK members during the transitional period and integration, which would have relegated most of MK members to far positions that would not be succeeding in taking over the leadership of the Defense Force, which today we're paying high price. That PAC, Appler forces and other forces, including the TVB states, are taking over. Now, in no time, you'll have no ANC running the country. If our political platform is not reaching the correctness that is required in the country and resonate with the communities or the people of South Africa. Now, our behavior and our maneuvering should be such that it's inclusive and it moves with others, to the extent that most of these parties that you see are springboards that comes out of the ANC. Our relationship as MK with all those parties should be such that they still respect us as they respected us from the ANC, but they lost this particular respect because of the behavior of some elements within us that threatens the rest of us. So it's imperative that we look into these developments in a very, very serious eye. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves at a pose without anybody listening to us. I thought I should just emphasize that point. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Kiraman. Now we are literally closing up. So,
You're still muted, Comrade Malik, unmute yourself.
Sorry, that was just a test, just to see if we can do lip reading. Yeah, I think, Makamini, if you can just close it and then we give to Cyril, Comrade 60, to actually say his last word, and then we thank everybody else.
Sure, thanks so much, and I'll be very brief. I'm new in these things, and I need to ask, where to from here? Because I believe that so many very important things were said here, and what I am realizing is that I'm using the word critical agent. It's critical and it's urgent that there has to be action. These things has to be actionable, because come 2024, we do not know whether we will still have influence. And I see some program of action coming out of here. I don't know whether I am out of what, because I don't know necessarily what comes out of these nice talks, you know. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Firstly, I think as a starting point, just to, Castro, you wanted to answer that?
I just wanted to make a last input that which I think are critical to what we discussed.
Okay, let me quickly respond to the Commissar quickly. The idea is very simple, is that we understand that the ANC might not listen to us. It doesn't listen. That's just the tragedy of the situation actually here. But we know. I mean, like I see, we've got some of our leaders here from the conference preparatory, committee, for instance, of EXMK. Now, we are hopeful that at least they'll be able to onboard these issues, because the reality here is that we are having these sessions because they are not taking place anywhere else. Now, these are things should be discussed in an EXMK policy conference, so that at least we're able to use the little muscle that EXMK has within the ANC to try and channel, these issues to the right places. So, Ray has made mention of peace and stability, and we are talking to some of the chairs, even in portfolio chairs or subcommittee chairs in the ANC, to be able to link up, and say these are the ideas that we actually have. See if they are worth anything, but if we know, anything much more than anything else is something that has got to do with security, and that is because 90+% of EXMK that remain their core even post 94. Others moved, in other directions, so to speak. But generally speaking, EXMK, as Ray said, as a community, it remains, one community that actually knows a little bit more than the average South African on security-related issues, on national interest related issues. So, we, in a nutshell, there are two paths that we are working on, but they are all leading to one ocean. That ocean is the ANC. because without it, this is dead. But will we be able to be listened by the ANC? There is no guarantee. I mean, we asked them to actually have a consultative conference. They chose to have an elective conference despite the reality that elective conference will always result in a division when you go in as divided as an organization. So it doesn't unite anyone because everybody's competing in a winner, in a win or must die type of attitude. So that answer might not be comforting because it is not saying to you, yes, this is going to go to the SG directly, is waiting for it, or the ANC is waiting for it. But we will do everything that we can, as we always do, because this is our platform. This is as in a collective effort. And hopefully, the preparatory committee of the EXMK conference and hopefully the Veterans League can actually wake up at some point and realize that the country is going if it's not gone, and they need a little bit of energy to be able to deal with the issues that you're actually raising, and they can actually join our little efforts in all of this. Will the preparatory committee listen? We do not know. We hope they will because they are actually our own comrades, and we want the same thing. And that it also talks about the urgency of the conference to say at least the discussion of the policies, and policies like this, as you're actually saying, these are mission critical. They cannot wait for people singing Kumbaya. We need the conference to get going. Certainly, this part, if other parts, in terms of elections and all those type of things, because people tend to fight over that, it gets delayed. That is something else. To me, that will make a whole lot of sense. But EXMK and the preparatory committee has to step forward, I think, in order to actually address, some of the concerns that actually raising. And we are hoping that we're actually putting, a little bit of explosives behind their chairs so that at least they can be able to move. And will that help? I'm not sure. But that is effectively as direct and as an honest answer as you can actually get from those who are actually organizing these strategic dialogues. Commissioner Castro, you wanted to say something.
Actually, you've covered.
Okay. Now, Madamini, your hand is it up because it's a protest, or is it a follow up? Is it? Okay, I see it's gone. Yeah, but we can always take some of these things, offside. Now, but I think it's almost 3 hours now. Some of the comrades have actually been here for 3 hours, and I know that the bulk of our people are on the wrong side of 60, and therefore they're diabetic and they're actually quite hungry and grumpy. So they actually just need to go and feed now. Those like who are not as fortunate as his ribs. But we thank you once again for joining us. We're always here every Wednesday. Next week is going to be more on the Military Veterans Act, specifically focusing on some of the processes, that the presidential task team is actually dealing with, and to actually see what can we take from there. It's effectively a very specific question. Are we there yet in resolving some of the issues that we need to resolve, through that channel? So that's it. So he will be leading that. And then after that, we're going to have Commissioner Castro touching to a certain extent to some of the issues you've touched already, because he will then be talking about the political home, of XMK, because that's one of the big problems you actually have. Ray did say this. We don't have a voting right in the table in the ANC. So we'll actually need to have that. And of course, the last one will be on heritage. Again, Castro and Mujaki will talk about the political commissariat to see if it can lead us anyway. But that is effectively where we are now. So unless there is any protest, I would really like to thank you and wish you a wonderful evening. And please, let's stay safe and let's be the change you want to see in the ANC. Thank you very much, comrades. Have a good one. Bona nit. Buenos noches.
Thank you, Matthew.
Malik is all in that space where you are.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commander Cyril. No, Commissar Castro. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. Thanks. Cyril has done a very good job. I mean, a wonderful one. And it's a pity his communication, but everything is fine. He will send a communication again, to reinforce his closing input. Thank you.